Well, Jackie Martling is here right across from me. I'm Peter Bales. This is Stand-Up Memories.
Did I ever tell you my story about Olivia Newton-John? I figure we can repeat the story because we're wearing different shirts.
I gotta tell you, I love that story. I repeated it, and I'm not gonna forget it.
You know what? It's funny because for whatever reason, people's names have been coming up along the way, and this guy's name came up. I forget who it was. I was talking to someone about the old times and blah, 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 and Catch a Rising Star. Do you remember Richie Gerstein?
I do. There's a blast
he became
from the past.
Richard T. Bear. Okay?
Richard T. Bear.
And he was on a regular at Catch a Rising Star the first times I ever waited online. I think even just when I went there to see what's going on. And he used to, if I'm crazy, he wrote a song that was a hit for Olivia Newton-John.
Did he?
And he would bitch about, oh, that dumb broad hasn't got the soul of a piece of white bread. Meanwhile, I think that's his only claim to fame, is that not You Light Up My Life, because that's not her, but a song, a nice, I'm sure we could look at Richie Gerstein.
Yeah, he did Honky Tonk. I think that's the best. And hard driving piano.
He wailed on the piano, and he was great. And I guess didn't get too far.
Well, you know who got very far from working out at Catch a Rising Star on the Upper East Side? Pat Benatar started there. And she was one of the music acts.
She was a music act and also waitress and became Rick Newman's girlfriend.
She was a waitress?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
You know who's very, very close friends with her to this day is John DeBellis.
Really?
Not to John DeBella, John DeBellis. Her and her husband, who I think is still her guitar player. Yeah, and she was, I think she was Rick, and became Rick Newman's girlfriend.
And he became her manager. Oh, yeah, she was wonderful.
Little inside info. And I don't even know if I ever met her. I don't think she was ever on the Stern Show, in fact. But I just know that from being friends with John DeBellis 40 years after the fact from the infamous Joey Reynolds show, which was
that was a fun show. You know, you mentioned John DeBellis, and I was going to ask you about times when you were on stage when things went wrong. Have you ever been? I've been on stage when a fight has broken out. Has that ever happened when you were on stage?
My band was on stage in Lincoln Park, Detroit, when the motorcycle guys had discovered LSD in 1971. And there's a brawl, and the owner told us, keep playing. We were playing Gimme Shelter by the Rolling Stones. These guys are beating the hell out of each other, and we're singing, War, Sister! It's, didn't we have and one time we blew a fuse, and at Sand City, which is now, the Shipwreck Inn in Bayville, and it was a crawl space back in those days, underneath, like in the sand, and we went underneath, the owner, to fix the fuse, and we're like, God, it sounds like a brawl up there, and we went back up, and they said, oh man, there was a brawl.
The power goes out. What do
I
you
don't think I've ever been on stage and seen actual fight. Have you seen that?
Oh, I've seen it. Yes, I've seen it at Catch a Rising Star, as a matter of fact.
Like a mobster or a drunk or
Well, I'm not sure if I have told this story before. Nicole will
never
stop me. But I was at Catch a Rising Star when Jerry Seinfeld was on stage, and it was late, and he's working up there, doing well, but some people had left already. And so it's half a room that he's working to, and they're into it. And then there was only one table kind of on a raised area in the other half. And they're talking and ignoring Jerry. And Jerry, in his way, did I tell this on I told this on the show?
Right. Keep going. You can't do that.
I got to stop.
You got to keep going.
I can't believe it. You have to throw something at me.
No, she didn't know it. So, go ahead.
Okay. Well, a glass. He told that table to be quiet and kind of not in a nice way. And
they're over here. He's ignoring them, and he's talking to the bulb.
And the glass didn't miss him by that much. And Jerry handled it. He dropped the mic, and he stands there waiting for the bouncer to throw this guy out. And the bouncer walked over to that table, talked to them for about 20 seconds, walked over to the stage and said, "Jerry, I'm sorry, you have to leave now." And they escorted Jerry out because it was a mob-connected table that you couldn't throw out, even though they threw a glass and almost hit a comedian. And
Hey, that's the business you chose.
everybody was, that's the business I chose. But I remember John DeBellis waiting to go on next, going, "I'm getting out of here," and leaving the club.
I'm sure. I talked to him. He's in Nicaragua, but we speak here and there. And I'm
Catch
sure.
has a club in Nicaragua?
No, John has I think he owns about half of it. He did really well, but he's a great character. You know who his best friend was back then, and still to this day, is Larry David.
Larry David.
You know, they went to all the Yankee games together and all that when neither of them was doing well. But so that was the Beatles thing. I'm so glad that caught on to you. I don't know if that was this week or last week, but
I love it.
So I've been delving into. I'm from East Norwich, which is on the north shore of Long Island, 40 minutes out from the city, whatever, just north of Oyster Bay. And East Norwich and Oyster Bay are very close, and I've become very good friends with the town historian of Mutton Town, which is a tiny little chunk.
Call it a hamlet.
Right. And the guy freaked out when I told him what's now the Mutton Town Preserve in East Norwich was my great-great-grandfather's farm in 1850. So the guy freaked out about that. So we've been going over stuff. And my cousin John Hammond is the town historian of Oyster Bay. So we went over the other day, and these guys are in heaven talking about this old stuff. East Norwich is a little tiny town, and it's an old crossroads. Rothman's Steakhouse is there, but Rothman's has been there forever because 25A or Northern Boulevard goes this way, and Route 106 goes this way.
Right.
So even when they were Indian paths, that was a crossway.
Right.
So there was always a meeting place of some kind. And the first church in East Norwich is just south of 25A on Route 106, but across the street from where the little church is now. The little church that's there now, the cornerstone, was laid by Theodore Roosevelt in 1900 when he was vice president, because the other church across the street had burnt down. And that's why all the old graves with all the old Martlings are up there, because the church was there before it burned down. The church was built by Walt Whitman. Now,
Long Island's.
No, hey, hold
own.
on. That's not the punchline. So when they found out years later, they were all excited about the history of, wow, the church was built by Walt Whitman. But it wasn't the Walt Whitman you're thinking of.
A different Walt Whitman?
It was his father.
Oh.
Walt Whitman's father's name was Walt Whitman. And while his father was building the church, Walt was teaching school in East Norwich in the one-room schoolhouse. I mean, how could you grow up in East Norwich and have them not share that? I always jealous. How come they get the mall in Huntington? How come they get?
Right.
Of course, it was years. I know I had no idea who Walt Whitman. I knew what the mall was long before I knew who Walt Whitman. Leaves the grass my ass. Maybe it's getting Clinton laid, but it wasn't helping me. But I thought that was so interesting.
That's an amazing story. Now, you're talking about the crossroads, and that's where East Norwich was. Did the widening of 25A, Northern Boulevard, cut the soul out of
just
East Norwich?
Ripped the soul out of it, because they when I was a kid, I would walk south on 106, which is Oyster Bay Road, and then over 25A and go to the little tiny school there.
Yeah.
And walking south on Route 106, the maple trees, it was a tunnel. It was a little dirt road. I got a picture. I'll even send it. We could post it. I have a picture of that little white original church, and there's like a country lane in front of it, and it's Route 106.
I know.
It looks like not a dirt path, but it's a little tiny thing. But when they widened it, they went both ways and took all the maple trees and all the heart and soul. And it was just like, you should see the pictures. Like there's pictures throughout the years of the little general store and Rothman's and, you know, it was.
Well, I mean, you can't stop the change. You
No.
can't,
We're lucky we didn't get the cloverleaf. We're lucky we didn't get the big
bridge.
When I was a kid, until I was like 18, the only person that ever cut my hair was Sam the barber, who had a little barber shop in East Norwich, and both of his sons grew up to be barbers. And where Sam's barber shop is now a rub and tug. It's
Really?
the healing spa.
Okay.
But it's funny because Sam's kids, as they got older, well, it's Sam's barbershop. When I was a little kid, the back of the barbershop, the mailboxes were there. Like the boxes for the East, you know, you went to Sam's barbershop to go get your mail. There was no delivery, you know. And his kids grew up to be barbers, but by the end of the 60s, nobody was getting their hair cut.
Yeah.
So these guys started the East Norwich cesspool service. So one day they're cutting your hair, and the next day they're doing your cesspool. I'm like, guys, I hope you guys are washing your hands
in between.
It's so hysterical.
See, that's a microcosm of what happened to Long Island. It used to be small towns.
Oh, it was a big deal. Hey, we're getting a barbershop. We're getting a post office. We're getting a post office.
And
you know.
farms. You're talking. That was your grandfather's farm.
Great
grandfather's.
My great grandfather.
There used to be Long Island potatoes everywhere, even into Queens.
No. But that's
as far in as Queens. Long Island potatoes.
I discovered under my father's bed. I found all these things: letters from Edith Roosevelt at the Roosevelt Derby. I found a thing called a pickle contract, which was between my great-grandfather, John Coger Martling, the first one, and then it skipped a generation to my grandfather, and then my father was John Coger Martling, so I'm John Coger Martling Jr., but I'm actually the third one. But the two of them were sons of Vincent, who had this big farm in 1850, and they had a pickle contract. I think I found this out since we had this last taping. Cucumbers were an easy fallback crop because it was hard to kill them. So a lot of people grew pickles or grew cucumbers because you could make money. It was a very, very popular crop in the late 1800s, and there were places that what do you do to pickles? Distill them, whatever you do.
You put them in brine.
Right. And those places were next to the railroads in Syosset and in Hicksville, the places where you brought the cucumbers there, and it was a huge business. And this pickle contract actually says, you know, they bring the cucumbers by the barrel, and they'd pick a few at random to test them, and people made a lot of money. And the reason, because there was such a huge demand for pickles, because of the amount of German immigrants in the 1890s and 1900s became immense. But then all of a sudden, refrigeration came. So they didn't need all those, and then all of a sudden, like in 1910, bye-bye pickles, hello potatoes.
Oh,
I always thought potatoes had always been the Long Island thing, and potatoes didn't take hold until 19. I thought,
so Jackie,
how phenomenal is that?
Now you know this.
It's got it doesn't have a lot to do with comedy.
Let's tell our audience, this is before the highways came out to Long Island. It was farms and small towns, no Long Island Expressway, no Northern State Parkway, and the old single-lane roads each way, Jericho Turnpike and 25A, they wanted to keep the masses from coming out and spoiling.
Right, so the rich people made sure that the roads were in bad repair. That's a Robert Moses thing.
Yes, that and
potholes
they did it deliberately.
They say it would take 4 hours to drive out on 25A, so people would just stop
and give up,
picnic on the side of the road,
and give up trying to get to a North Shore beach. But you know, so the farms went all the way into Queens, and during both World Wars, Germany with their submarines, called U-boats in the First War, used to surface in places like Little Neck Bay, and at night paddle to shore. They would dress in business suits, and looking like everybody else, they would go to the nearest Long Island Railroad station, take the train into Manhattan, shop for food and supplies, maybe some new clothes at Macy's, go back out, wait till it gets dark, and paddle out to their submarine after shopping in Manhattan.
That is it. Now, did you just make that
No,
up?
I did not make that up. And the farmers used to get up in the morning and walk out and look at their crops and go, "Oh, those raccoons! Wait, the
What are
Germans were
footprints?"
the Germans were here." You know,
That's so great.
absolutely true. And
My grandfather had a huge farm until the day they came to him and said, "We're taking the farm, eminent domain." His farm was right where they're going to put the Long Island Expressway. In
yeah,
Indianola.
and the small farmers couldn't fight it. The rich guys had a little bit more success, which is
but
why
not a lot.
Not a lot, but that 2-mile detour of the Northern State Parkway.
But that
around
wasn't due to
Westbury,
farms. That was due to their huge, monstrous estates
and having and buying off some New York State legislators.
Because it's like all of a sudden you're riding along like,
yeah,
why is it
way
do
out
that,
of the way.
you know?
It's just
and they put in the Cold Spring Harbor. Did you tell me this? They put in the Cold Spring Harbor Railroad Depot so they could bring the pieces of Otto Kahn's castle. So he could build the Ohika Castle.
oh, I love that. No, I didn't tell you that. That's great.
That's why because it originally, I don't know if you remember, not now because now it's as crowded as any of them, but it used to be like a whistle stop. Like, who the hell goes here? You know, it's just fascinating.
The Glen Street station, right after the Glen Cove station on that Long Island Railroad line, was built by J.P. Morgan for J.P. Morgan, so he could come out from work in the city and walk directly to the first tee.
I
An
always
entire-
wondered about, because that's so in the middle
It's
of
so
nowhere.
close. It's in the middle of nowhere, but he could walk to the first tee at Nassau Country Club. Amazing what
My
the rich
buddy
people could get away
my
with.
buddy lives on J.P. Morgan's, a hunk of J.P. Morgan's old estate, and he thought they finally sold, you know, the generations. It's weird how it works, because the old money, the family left all the money to the firstborn son. The girls got nothing because it was on them to marry somebody of good station. And then, so the money, so you could be, the friend that my friend, I don't want to say names, had, his friend, his mother was a Morgan, a J.P. Morgan, but she was a girl. So she was married to a guy who was very well off, but not J.P. Morgan. And he just found out that the place where he's staying, they sold it, and the gazillionaire that bought it locked horns with him in a good way, and they're in love, and he doesn't have to leave. And like, so he's got this station, you know.
And giving all your money to the eldest son is called primogeniture.
Is that the name of that?
That's what it's called, and it dates back to medieval times. And when we hit the age of exploration in the 1500s, the guys who risked their life to discover new lands were second, third, and fourth sons, because somebody
had to mind the store and the money.
Yeah, somebody had to stay home and be the duke of whatever. Don't feel sorry for these rich kids, but a lot of them said, I'm risking my life to make my own name and my own fortune. So all these explorers,
what were they,
second, third,
what were
fourth
they
sons,
drinking?
they could have stayed on the estate, but there was a lot of jealousy about the eldest son who got everything, the title, the money, and the fact that carried to parts of America.
You know, my father gave me crabs. We're going to take a short break for about a week. And in the interim, I think I saw a signal. I'm not sure. I guess I saw a signal. We'll be back with a story about Olivia Newton-John that I know you're going to like.
I'm going to tell that story every week until I get a positive reaction.
Great. So you didn't know Walt Whitman. I didn't know about the submarines. I loved it.
Well, I have heard of Walt Whitman.
Do you know the Longfellow story?
Longfellow?
The guy who told me that died, and he was so wealthy and so, you know what? I'm going to save it because it's a long story. And this is, I know it's supposed to be a comedy podcast, and we talk about old-time comedy and good stuff and the Stern Show and all that. But if you're a Long Island, not even a Long Island person, because it all came from New York, or a lot of it came. So if you're interested in that stuff at all, and the great thing now is the Google, because it can sound like we're making everything up, and And it's there if you know how to Google. I don't know how to Google. I know I can Google. I can Google. We'll be back with Longfellow, and it's not a penis joke.
Good.
Okay. I'm no poet, but my dick is a Longfellow. Remember that one? We'll be back next week.
Hey, a new episode of Stand-Up Memories every Wednesday.
How exciting is that?
Starring me, Peter Bales, and right here, Jackie the Joke Man, Martling.
Please follow us on social media. Search it out. What is it? Me space?
MySpace,
Your space?
TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
Doodah, doodah.